Morning from Sridham Mayapur. Good morning, Kata. Jaya Kunja Jaya Madhava Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Vallabha Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naramashcharavayotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Vede Ramayane Shaiva Purane Bharate Tata Adavande Chamade Chani Shaivattu Diyate Mukam Karodi Vachalam Vambo Vandayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shigurum Dihataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda Hey Madhava Padunga Uchi Makaranda Say Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Nari Harinda Nameva Hari Koribe Chakadola Se Chakadolanka Padaye Manamura Nirantare Manamura Nirantare Hare Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Hare Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Motiu Dada 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 Motiu Dada 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 Motiu Dada Dada Dada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the king of all literatures, the third canto, chapter 29, explanation of devotional service by Lord Kapila. And today we're still on text number 9. This is our fourth session on this particular verse, and we may give a fifth session. We'll see. Vishayan abhisandaya yasha aishvaryameva van archadavarchayed yomam pritibhava surajasa. The worship of deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. And Srila Prabhupada, reading from his purport, he says, the word separatist must be understood carefully. The Sanskrit words in this connection are pinadrik and pitag bhava. A separatist is one who sees his interests as separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees, or devotees in the modes of passion and ignorance, think that the interest of the Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their sense gratification. This is a separatist mentality. Actually, pure devotion. Actually, pure devotion is explained in the previous chapter. The mind of the Supreme Lord and the mind of the devotee should be dovetailed. A devotee should not wish anything but to execute the desire of the Supreme. That is oneness. Gora Graganya Gana Gocha Gavoruharam Goranga Gudatama Gopya Viksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Shatatam. So again, in this verse, Lord Kapila Dev is describing three motivations for a Rajarshik Bhakta, or a devotee who's in the mode of passion. Vishaya, sense gratification. Yasa, to become famous. And Aishvarya, to get some opulence. And we've been discussing this verse in light of what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says about the Kesi demon in his Krishna Samhita and his Chaitanya Siksamrita. In Krishna Samhita, he says that Kesi personifies the vanity of political ambition. He says that Kesi personifies a practitioner's conception of being more expert than others in devotional service. When he comes to Braj, he creates a great disturbance. And in Chaitanya Siksamrita, he says, Ami bhoro bhakta o charja e abhimana shvarja buddhi o partiva hankara varjana. Keshivada means thinking Ami bhoro bhakta o charja. I'm a great devotee. I'm going to charge him. E abhiman, this attitude. Aishvarja buddhi, this mentality, buddhi that I am very opulent and I'm powerful. It's also the ahankara, false ego, of thinking that I'm Parthiva, I'm literally the king, the lord of the earth, the lord of the devotees. So Varjana, this has to be kicked out. So we've been discussing something about Kesi in our last few sessions and how Kamsa met Kesi and how Kesi entered Braj, how Kesi became a servant of Kamsa, who is the personification of mundane, organized religion, and how Kesi entered into Braj, making a roaring sound like a lion, and he disturbed all the devotees. And the devotees were afraid, but not for themselves, they were afraid for Krishna, for the movement of Krishna. And Krishna told them, why are you afraid? Everything is okay. Don't worry about anything. So this takes place in the 37th chapter of the 10th canto in 9 verses. In the 5th verse, it's described, Vyadaya Kesi, that Kesi has a big mouth. And into that big mouth, Bhujam Uttaram, Krishna with a smile on his face, he thrust his left arm into Kesi's mouth. And in this way, he shut him up. And so in a similar way, sometimes neophyte devotees, when they enter the association of Rasik Vaishnavas or higher Vaishnavas, they want to advertise themselves as great devotees, and they have a big mouth. And Krishna sticks his left hand in the mouth of Kesi. What does the left hand mean? Well, first of all, sticking his hand in Kesi's mouth, we suggest, indicates, shut up. Shut up all your pride, your desire for debate, your desire for posturing, for position. And it can also indicate, because the left hand means negligence. The right hand is the hand that we eat with. The left hand is what traditionally people in Vedic culture use to clean themselves with after having taken care of their body. So that left hand, meaning negligence, is some nasty thing, could also indicate Krishna's chastisement, not with his right hand, but with his left hand, via the material energy. And the Harivamsa says, Dasanaya Mula Nimuktai, that as soon as Krishna's left hand came in the mouth, Kesi's teeth came out. And they came out by their roots. Those teeth are the things that he uses to bite people and to vocalize his voice of superiority. Therefore, the Vishnu Purana says, Sita Bravavaya Eva, that those teeth were just like thunderbolts, which caused so much pain to everyone. Then in the 7th verse of this 37th chapter of the 10th canto, it said, Landam Vishrijan Kshito Vyasu. That Landam means stool. Vishrijan means to pass. The Kesi, he passed stool and he died. It's a similar word in Bengali to Varjana. Varjana means we should give this up. We should give up this stool-like desire to become a big, big person, a big, big devotee. And we spoke something about how Kesi's previous birth is described in several different places, both in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana and in the Garga Samhita. And there it said that he was a devotee named Kumuda, who was working for Indra. Indra being the king of the demigods, and someone who becomes proud, thinking that the Brijbasis should give worship to him. And what was the service that Kumuda did for Indra? He carried the umbrella, that thing which advertises the position of Indra. That was his service. But Kumuda and Indra are both devotees. So in this session today, we'd like to speak what it means to be guru, what it means to be a disciple. The word sishya comes from the sas dhatu, The root of sas, which means to be chastised, sasan, comes in the same word. If you think you're a disciple then means one who deserves to be chastised. Not everybody deserves to be chastised. That's the first point. But someone, close that door. Someone who is trying to take the position of guru, they want to give that chastisement to others. But not everyone should be given that chastisement. Only someone who deserves it. Only someone who has this attitude that I'm fit to be chastised and I'm ready to accept it. I'm not going to argue back. And therefore, Narottam Das Thakur sings, Dante Trinam Dhori Gora. When I'm calling out your name, Dante Trina, I have straw in my teeth, indicating that I'm not going to argue when you chastise me. No excuses. Why didn't you do your homework? Well, actually, I was working in the bathroom and accidentally got flushed down the toilet. I'm really sorry. Or I was walking to school and all of a sudden a big dog just jumped out of nowhere and he grabbed my homework out of my hand and he ate it. It was really shocking. I don't know what happened. People make so many excuses. It wasn't my fault. It was her fault. It was his fault. It was the fault of my wife. Practically, I would be a pure devotee by now if it wasn't for my wife or my husband. So, disciple means someone who doesn't give excuses. And they accept chastisement. That's a very rare thing. Who is it who can accept chastisement from us? And guru is compared sometimes to an axe. Axe, a guru means heavy. And an axe is very heavy. At the same time, it's very sharp. So sadhu speaks very strong, sharp words to the disciple in order to free him from unwanted contamination. The sage Patanjali describes in his introductory part of his Mahabhashya about grammar, Ya udate kartabhye anudatam karoti kandi kapodhyayatasmai chabetam dadati anyatvam karoshi iti. That if a student incorrectly utters a mantra in the wrong pitch, maybe he does it in a low pitch, it should be a high pitch, then this teacher slaps him. Says, hey, chant it properly. That's the position of such a teacher. Girbir Guru Nam Parusachare Bishtiraskrita Yanti Nara Mahatvam Alabda Sano Kasana Nipanam Najatu Molo Manayova Santi. The Subhasita Ratna Bandhagara, verse 760, describes that while giving him instructions, Girbir Guru Nam, the Guru, while he's giving instructions, he chastises a disciple using harsh words. That disciple who accepts that, he achieves immense greatness later in life. And the example is given that just like a diamond, which hasn't been severely tested and polished, a diamond which has been ground down and suffered so much, that diamond won't find itself on the crown, the mola of a king. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, a diamond. Diamond's a little rough. Yeah. But when you grind it and polish it, and it suffers so much, then it becomes beautiful. And then the diamond can go on the crown of a king. In a similar way, the disciple is rough. And if the disciple is very fortunate, Guru would chastise him. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he's described in one article, there is no doubt that the words of the sadhu possess the power of destroying the evil propensities of one's mind. The sadhus in this way benefit everyone who associates with them. There are many things which we do not disclose to the sadhu. The real sadhu makes us speak out what we keep concealed in our hearts. He makes us speak our heart, right? Because we trust him. And then what does he do when we trust him? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, he then applies the knife. The very word sadhu has no other meaning than this. Sadhu means to cut. He stands in front of the block with the uplifted sacrificial knife in his hand. The sensuous desires of men are like goats. The sadhu stands there to kill those desires by the merciful stroke of the keen edge of the sacrificial knife in the form of unpleasant language. Such a beautiful. If the sadhu turns into my flatterer, he says nice things about me. You're the best of all my disciples, and you're so very humble and so very qualified. If he turns into my flatterer, then he does me harm. He becomes my enemy. If he gives us flattery, then we are led to the road that brings enjoyment, but no real well-being. So as we discussed previously, it's very difficult for people in the West to even understand this principle of guru, and especially in our modern culture where we have a crisis of faith in the leaders. Just look in any newspaper. Just look online and see what people say even about leaders amongst devotees, amongst the Vaishnavas, and not just in ISKCON, but in so many different sanghas. It's very difficult for people to have faith. And then people, they want to chastise others. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, again, he said, no one should criticize or glorify others' natures or activities. The Chaitanya Bhagavat states, Paracharchakara gati nahi konakali. A critic never attains benefit. Critics go to hell. Instead of criticizing others, one should rectify himself. The spiritual master's chastisement is beneficial for ordinary persons. We should not get involved in such matters by judging them one way or another. So this is Kesi. This is a Kesi demon. We may say, Anupayani Radha may say, I don't think I'm Kesi. I don't think that I'm a guru. But then she goes and she chastises someone. You haven't chanted your japa, you shouldn't take prasadam. Nonsense, rascal. Like this. That's the business of guru. This is also found in Vedic culture. In the Agni Purana, in the Manasamhita, there's a crime, a Vedic crime, which is called, the person who performs it is called Vakta Purusha. Vak means, Vakta Purusha means someone who uses harsh words or chastises someone else. He may praise them or offend them. Such a person is called Vak Purusha. He may tease someone because they only have one leg, or they're crippled, or they're blind in one eye. They may tease someone. They may use harsh words of someone. But this was considered to be a crime. And the king, if he saw someone doing this, he would charge them. The fine generally was 25 pasas. I don't know how much a pasta is, but it's a particular form of money. If the crime was committed against someone who was below the level of the culprit, socially, you're a Brahmin and that person was a Sudra, you criticized a Sudra, and you're on a higher level, then the fine to be paid was only half. But if harsh words were used against women, so those people who really want to be Vedic, don't act like a bunch of whiny wimps and stand around and complain, oh, the girls shouldn't dress like that. They should cover their head. You're not being Vedic. Don't criticize women. You be a real man. That's Vedic culture. According to Manasamhita, according to Agni Purana, you set an example because women are not meant to be chastised. And if you chastise a woman or someone on a higher level, according to the Agni Purana, the fine is double. But if the Vak Purushasya, according to Manasamhita, some people want to follow Manasamhita, okay? So if you criticize a sannyasi, if you criticize a Brahmin, then the punishment is you have to have your tongue cut out, according to Manasamhita, if we really want to follow Manasamhita really strictly. I think there'd be a lot of people going around who couldn't say very much. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 146, he says, if one poses himself as an acharya, but doesn't have the attitude of servitorship to the Lord, he must be considered an offender. And this offensive attitude disqualifies him from being an acharya. So what does it mean to have an attitude of servitorship to the Lord. It means to have an attitude of respect to the devotees, to the Vaishnavas, to different personalities in this world. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, in the first Vilas, which describes the qualifications of a disciple and the qualifications of guru, the behavior of a disciple, it's described in text 89. Advaitam cha parityagya. That a qualified disciple should give up the mentality that they're non-different from their guru. This is the fault of Kesi. And this is bhakti in the mode of passion. That we take initiation from a great guru. Don't you know who my Guru Dev is? I'm initiated by Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And he's a very great Mahatma. And you see his picture here on my t-shirt. I have so much bhakti for him. You should give respect to him, and you should give respect to me, because I'm initiated by him. But Sanatana Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas, he quotes Samoyan Tantra, Gopaya Guru Matma. You should hide your guru. Don't advertise your guru. But someone who is practicing bhakti in the mode of passion, they want to advertise their guru. Even though, to use a bad word in English, who the hell are you in comparison with your Guru Dev? Who am I? But still, I want to advertise myself as being a follower of my Guru Dev. And how do I do that? One way I do that is to start chastising other people. I take upon myself the undesirable position of being guru, because guru means someone who can chastise others. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in one letter, on the 4th of December, 1931, he wrote, he said, I've received your card dated November 26, and another letter following that. He said, Srimad Bhagavatam has instructed us not to praise or criticize others' nature or activities. It's also said in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat that one goes to hell by criticizing others. My instruction to you is not to criticize others, but to correct and purify yourself. And he said, I'm forced to criticize my own disciples and those who have come to me for instruction. I don't understand why you want to go out of your way to try to perform such a difficult task. We may say that I don't want to be Krishna. But Prabhupada says, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, this is a nature, Paschata Desha. Prabhupada's written this in his own pranam mantra. The nature of the Western countries is people, they want to be Krishna. They want to be God. I don't want to be God. But maybe we want to be God in a more subtle way, like Kesi's doing, by opening his big mouth and running into the assembly of Vaishnavas. As Thakur Bhaktivinoda says, thinking that I'm greater, I'm on a higher level of bhakti than the Vaishnavas, doing some politics, thinking, Ami Bodho Vaishnavo Acharya. I'm a great Vaishnava, I'm a great Acharya. And the symptom of that is that we take it upon ourselves to be the judge of other people and be the critic of other people. But we don't hear about Haridas Thakur being the judge of other people. He's Lord Brahma, he's Pitamaha, he created the universe. He installed the deities of Jagannath Baladi, Subhadra, and Jagannath Puri. But when he went to Jagannath Puri, they said, you're a Yavana Malecha, you can't come inside the temple. And he didn't chastise them. He didn't tell them, hey, get out of my way, don't you know who I am? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and I, we're like this, we're very, very tight. And I am the Namacharya. He didn't chastise them, but he showed us by his behavior. The Padma Purana gives us in the Brahma Kanda, chapter 25, it lists the 10 offenses to the holy name. The 9th offense is described. Ashadadane vimuke aprashimvati yaschopadesha shiva nama paradha. To instruct the glories of the holy name to someone who doesn't have faith, it is an offense. But actually the word, this translation that we often give, is not actually complete. 3 disqualifications are given. You should not speak to someone who has these 3 qualities, one or more of these 3 qualities. They're ashadadhani, they don't have faith in you. And why should they have faith in me? Who am I? Well, someone says, don't come to our temple. We don't want you to get class. Thank you. That's a blessing. I deserve some chastisement. We should think like that. Why, if someone doesn't have faith, why do we want to go there? If they're vimuk, they're reluctant to hear from you, or ashrindati, they don't want to hear from you, or it means they're not listening, they're not paying attention, don't speak to them. Don't give them correction. Because the definition of guru, the very simple definition of guru, is someone that we have faith in who can give me something. That's a very simple definition. Maybe a mridanga guru, harmonium guru, singer guru, maybe a guru who teaches you mathematics in school, or maybe a paramarthik guru who teaches you bhakti. But that guru, the qualification is that you should have faith in them. So we should give up this nasty habit, this habit of Kesi, this habit of bhakti in the mode of passion, of taking it upon ourselves to be guru, of pushing ourselves forward as guru, and chastising other people. And if we do this, it means we're not following Shastra. And what does it mean if we don't follow Shastra? It's described in Padma Purana, Shruti Smriti Puranadi, Pancharata Vidindira, Kaintake Hare Bhakti, Utpataye Vikopate. That if you don't follow that Shastra, you're not following, you're chastising other people. Acharya mam vijanayam navamanyeta karicha. You're trying to take the position of guru and chastising other people. If you do that, it creates a disturbance in two places. It disturbs your bhakti. Because then how can you be amanina manadena? How can you give respect to everyone? And then how can you be kirtaniya sadahari? How can you always chant? And the second place that it creates disturbance is in the association of the Vaishnavas. Like Kesi, when he comes running into Braj with a big mouth and his big teeth, wanting to bite everybody with his insistence on debate and his insistence on chastising, criticizing everyone else, and pushing himself forward as a great devotee, Ami Bodho Bhakta Acharya. We have to give up that. Srila Prabhupada described in one letter in 1971, 14th of October, he said, I've noted your several complaints against the devotees, but it would be better to set the example rather than to criticize the defects of the devotees. We should always remember that we recruit members from people in general. It's not expected that every one of our members should be immediately to the standard qualification. The best thing for you is to set the example by your personal behavior and try to reform others, not by criticizing, but by friendly behavior. If sometimes there are any disagreements, we should forget such incidences and be always in friendship with each other. Now, what does Srila Prabhupada describe in this letter in an indirect way? It's a question many times that preachers have. What do? You want to save that soul. You want to help that poor brahmachari who thinks he's going to be happy by marrying this girl who's already been married to 5 different men previously. And you're trying to tell him, look, it's not a good idea, but he just won't listen to you. What can you do if he won't listen to you? If he has these 3 qualities, he's ashradhan, he doesn't have faith in you, he's vimuk, he's reluctant to hear from you, or ashrindati, he's just not listening to you. Then we have to do the hard work, Prabhupada is indirectly indicating in this letter, to set the example by our personal behavior. By being detached, that's the first thing. By understanding, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said in one article, that giving up the bad desire to reform others and taking shelter of the holy name and understanding that it's the holy name which is going to reform everyone. And as soon as we have the understanding that everyone is okay and there's nothing I can do, I'm not the reformer, then we can become reformed ourselves. And if we can't become reformed ourselves, there's no question of reforming others. It's just a demoniac attitude. It's a passionate attitude in bhakti, which we see exemplified in the form of the demon, Kesi, who wants to run into the assembly of Vaishnavas, making a big noise and chastise everyone. Our Guru Maharaj, he once described in one evening program in San Francisco in 1994, I was present there, maybe Sachitanaya there. He said, to correct and criticize someone is a business only of such a person who's acting as guru. To correct and criticize someone, that's only the business of Guru. He has the right to inflict punishment on you, to catch a hold of your ear and slap you. Guru Karnadhara. He'll correct you and criticize you. Rascal, why are you doing this and that? You have no right to chastise, no right to correct anyone. You're not Guru. Guru has that right. If you see something and you have a good heart, you think, oh, he's doing something wrong, it's detrimental to his bhakti, then go to him, offer obeisances, and tell him confidentially, not in front of others, oh, my dear brother, I see this thing and it pains me very much that you're doing this and this. This is a great impediment on the path of devotion. I fear that you won't be able to make any advancement. Therefore, I'm coming to you and telling you, oh, my friend, please don't do it. Be serious about your bhajan. Tell him in such a humble way. Speak to him confidentially, not in the presence of others. Not on Facebook, not on some WhatsApp group and chastise everybody and advertise ourselves to be Guru. Guru Maharaj says, if he's serious, that person who's doing some wrong, he'll admit, oh, you're my great friend. I'm blind to my own faults. You pointed them out, so I will be more careful. He'll accept it. But if you speak in the presence of others, the reverse effect will be there. And the devotee asks a question. Sometimes I may want to correct someone, but I see that person won't accept what I have to say. And our Guru Maharaj replied, so why should you tell him? You should think he won't accept it, so why shall I tell him? Let him go. As you sow, so shall you reap. What can I say to such a person? And I saw this with our own Guru Maharaj, that he would not instruct people, even disciples, if they weren't ready to listen. Ashindati, if we had this fault, I'm not listening to him, or Vimukh, I have this fault that I don't want to hear anything from them, or should have done, I don't have faith. So this is the bad desire to become Guru. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says that if I don't remember the lotus feet of Sri Guru at the beginning of every new month, every new day, and every new moment, then I'm sure to fall into far greater inconveniences. If I don't remember the feet of Gurudev, then I'll want to dress myself in the garb of the Guru. It is this, he says, I become liable to the bad desire of seeking to be worshipped by other people as Guru. It is this which constitutes addiction to other things than the truth. So Lord Kapila Dev is telling his mother, this is bhakti in the mode of passion. Don't do this. This is Kesi, wanting to take the position of Guru and chastise others. I'll finish with a beautiful excerpt from a lecture of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Listen to what he says. This wicked mind, which is never to be trusted, should be beaten with a broom every morning, with warnings such as, don't be anxious to find fault with others, or to proclaim yourself as a true, sincere, bona fide bhakta, which certainly you are not. In this connection, the advice of the Vaishnava Mahajanyas. Brajajanya devata tahe have anugata eshe paramata. He said, don't be attached, karmi, gyani, miksha, bhakta, to these false devotees. Nahabi tata anurakta. Anurakta means don't be attached to it. Don't be attached to all their nonsense and chastising them and think that, oh, I've been sent by Lord Nityananda from the spiritual world to reform the movement. He said, rather, Sudha bhajaniti kuruman. You should always push pure bhajan. Brajajanera jay mata chahi hava anugata. You follow the principles that the folk of Braj adopt. Ase pranamatat vadan. Their valued truths to be held aloft. And he quotes Chaitanya Charitamrita. Dvaiti bhada bhagya gyan sabha manudhan e bhala e manda e sabha brahm. In the material world, conceptions of good and bad are all mental speculations. Therefore, to say this is good or this is bad is a mistake. It's not my business. What is my business as given by my Guru Dev, Narottam Das Thakur, in this song that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is quoting, Sudha Bhajaneti Kuruma. Do Sudha Bhajan. You do Bhajan. You do Bhajan. And when you do Bhajan, that day will come and you become pure. And then Krishna may tell you, you should act as Guru. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, people are usually overly busy in mental speculation. They should relieve themselves of this, just like Kesi relieved himself from that stool when Krishna killed him. They should relieve themselves of this and try to ascertain their actual benefit. There's an adage to the effect that parachachakara gati nahi konakali. A person who's habituated to criticize others' conduct will never prosper. This is the fault, the obstacle of Kesi. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, let others do whatever they like. I have no concern for them. I should rather find fault with my own damned mind and think like the Vaishnava Mahajan, who happens to be his father, who sings in Saranagati. Amara Jivana Sabda Papirata Nahika Para Sukha Duki Sangami Chabasi Para Duka Sukha. This is how we should constantly think. Amara Jivana, this is my life. Sada Pape Rata. I'm always engaged in sinful activity. Nahiko Punyara Lesh, I don't have the slightest trace of virtue in me. Sada Mitya Basi, I'm always a great liar. Parasuke Duki, I get happiness seeing other people suffering. And I become sorry when I see that they're happy. This is such my position. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said we should always remember this song and engage our mind ceaselessly in Hari Bhajan. We should not run about attacking others with dissuading policy. Such conduct only behooves deceitful persons and not preachers. So I'm going to stop there. We're going to have a fifth session because there is a lot I would like to say about this topic. Sadly, it's an obstacle which many Vaishnavas we find in our hearts, that we want to be the Guru, we want to be the person to chastise others. And we see very clearly that when we start doing like that, when we start doing like that, it creates a disturbance in our own bhakti. We don't make advancement. And it creates such a disturbance in our society. New people come to bhakti. They come to this movement. And they, wow, I just want to practice Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. Everything's so nice. And then they see some older devotee. What is the older devotee doing? Yeah, I chant my japa, but he places more stress on what he does during the day on the internet, on Facebook, on different places, chastising other people because I have to do this. This is my position. I have to chastise everyone for Srila Prabhupada, for the movement. But is Krishna telling you to do this? Did your Guru tell you to do this? Or is your mind telling you to do this? Thakur Bhaktivinoda in Krishna Samhita, he says, Ado dushaguru prapti putana stana dayini vatya rupa kutarkas tu tunavarta itirita. That someone who accepts argument as their guru and learns the process of worship from such a guru, argument and chastisement of others, they've accepted shelter of a bogus guru. When argument poses as nourishment for the living entity's constitutional duties, he says this is compared with Putana falsely posing as a nurse to offer her breast. It destroys the movement of Srila Prabhupada. There's a reason why Srila Prabhupada said our movement is based on love and trust. If we really want to reform others, that reform should begin with ourselves. But if we're practicing bhakti in the mode of passion, and we have these three desires that we want to become famous, we want to enjoy some sense gratification, we want to have some opulence, then we may fall prey to this bad obstacle of Kesi, pushing ourselves forward as guru and chastising other people. And just as Kesi disturbs all the residents of Vrindavan, will also disturb the society of Vaishnavas. So I'm going to stop there. Several comments and questions from devotees. I'm very happy to see this stuck with devotees a little bit. Madhupati Prabhu has commented regarding Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's warning. Are we to avoid glorification of others as well, or did I misunderstand something? Yes, we should also avoid glorifying others. But what does it mean? Of the two, too much glorification, too much criticism, too much glorification can be allowed. This is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We may glorify devotees, but we should avoid the offense known as ati stuti ninda, or it's a kind of ninda, criticism of too much glorification. Oh, Prabhu, you're the most glorious devotee. I think you're probably the most handsome, wonderful person in the whole temple, and you're the most humble, and you're this and that. And could I borrow some money from you? Mm-hmm. That's atistuti ninda. And even we may do that with Gurudev. We may say, my Gurudev is the acharya. Of course he's the acharya for me. But we may say he's the acharya for everyone. Maybe. But isn't that up to the Vaishnavas to decide? And if we speak like this is atistuti ninda. So yes, we should avoid that glorification. But otherwise, our life and soul is to appreciate the Vaishnavas. Madhupati Prabhu goes on to say, I thought the best policy to avoid gossip is either to glorify those not present, or if both talkers are in an authority position relative to a third person, then it is only allowed to talk about faults of that person not present. Well, we can purify ourselves and our evil desire to criticize and become like Kesi by appreciating the good qualities of others. But that appreciation has to be genuine. It has to be from the heart, not like the funny way I was behaving a moment ago, which is like the behavior of a con man, where you're overly flattering someone. That kind of flattery is a kind of insult, and it's very detrimental to Vaishnava Sangha. Lynn has asked, is it that women are not able to become disciples since Guru is not able to chastise them? Well, this is Old English. It's saying men, meaning all humans. I'm sorry, I like to correct that kind of English. I didn't do it here. But certainly women will also be able to become disciples, and certainly Guru chastises them. My Guru Maharaj would chastise sometimes the ladies very heavily. I remember one lecture he gave where all the ladies, the blood completely drained from their face and they were like shaking. And Guru Maharaj he had a phone call from one Mataji, was telling Guru Maharaj, I'm sorry, I can't follow that. I'm a Western woman. And Guru Maharaj started shouting in the class. There's a lecture, this is called Western Woman. He said, Western woman, get out of here. Go away. And this way he was chastising him very, very heavily.
What is this east and west?
Sorry?
What is this east and west?
Yeah, what is this east and west? Lynn goes on. What to do when we encounter a guru who takes enjoyment chastising the disciples, not for teaching purposes, but because this is a negative quality of their being? How does a disciple respond to this? Well, ultimately, our Adi Guru is a Chaitya Guru, the Guru in the heart. And we find Guru by the blessings of Krishna in the heart. But sometimes, our acaryas have described, due to some contamination in our heart, our vision of Guru may be covered. And we may misunderstand, we may misidentify someone as Guru, who's not really Guru. But if we're sincere, then Krishna will reveal to us at a certain point. And maybe, as you're pointing out here, what to do when we encounter the Guru takes more enjoyment in chastising the disciples, not for teaching purposes, but because it's a negative quality of their being. Sometimes we'll see that, and that may be Krishna's mercy on us to show us. So then at that time, we don't argue with that person, we don't chastise them, we don't try to take the position of Guru for ourselves, but we bow our head and we go somewhere else, either completely or at least we overlook those faults in that guru. It's a big topic. Many more things could be said. There's a number of questions today. Brajabanita said, for minimal order in any society, your spelling is terrible, Brajabanita. For minimal order in any society, there must be basic order and protection for citizens. And those who break that order must be punished. Maybe without criticism, but punishment must be there. Well, that criticism is also a kind of punishment. But that's reserved for guru. And if you have the position of guru, what is guru? Guru means a teacher. It means someone who's teaching Srimad Bhagavatam. Guru, but only to those people who have faith in them are they guru. Guru means someone who's a temple commander, the temple president, someone who's a Prabhupada disciple, like our dear friend Ramana Sukha Prabhu, who has a question, I think, about this. He's a senior devotee. They have an obligation to chastise, but or a parent, a father or a mother, they have an obligation to chastise their children. But that obligation only goes to those persons who are Shraddhajan, who have faith in them. If they're Ashraddhajan, if they're Vimukh, they're Prashindati, if they don't have faith in you, if they're turned away from you, that's not interested in hearing what you have to say, or they're not listening to you, then you can't speak to them. It just won't work. So it's a big problem in society. What do we do when people don't have faith in the leaders and they won't accept chastisement? Then there's chaos. So we should give respect to the authorities. Narad Muni gave respect to Kamsa. Sanatana Goswami gave respect to the Chandkazi. They're both terrible demons, but they respected them. Because if we don't respect authority, how will society go on? And then it may become a disturbance in our own personal bhajan. Ramana Sukha Prabhu, my pranams Prabhuji, this says, sometimes a senior devotee sees the need for institutional reform and speaks publicly. If their approach is with all humility and in the mood of service to Srila Prabhupada, then is this a kind of criticism okay? Or should they keep their critique to themselves and only share in confidence? Well, I saw Srila Prabhupada himself sometimes didn't criticize the devotees. I think it was in 1974, there was a group of sannyasis and brahmacharis who were saying that women should not be allowed to live in the temples, and grihasthas shouldn't be allowed to live in the temple, and it came to a big quarrel in Mayapur, and Srila Prabhupada didn't chastise them. He did send a ringleader to China, that's another story. But Prabhupada didn't choose to chastise them. Mother Jamuna I once asked her, I said, what happened? I read in the early days, the devotees were sharing the same bathroom. They were wearing the same clothes. They were all wearing yellow cloth, yellow sheets. And the men would wear it like dhotis and the women would wear it like saris. And the men would give class and the women would give class and the men would lead kirtan and the women would lead kirtan. What happened? And she told me that when some of the first devotees came to India and were staying in Mayapur, they learned from the Gaudiya Math. And they came back and they started telling the devotees, we were doing everything wrong, and now we should start singing Hari Bol and the Kirtan. We should start doing like this and that. And the women should shut up, and the women should stand in the back. And she said that she was present in one Pandal program in Mumbai, Bombay. And Srila Prabhupada would always have Jamuna come onto the stage and speak something. But that particular day, Prabhupada would have her sit next to him. But that particular day, one of the sannyasis came to her and said, what are you doing? You're a woman. You're not supposed to be on the stage. You should stand in the back. And so out of humility, Jamuna stood in the back. And she felt sad. She saw Prabhupada come on the stage, and Prabhupada was looking around to the place where Jamuna normally was. He kept looking there, and she wasn't there. Throughout his lecture, Prabhupada kept looking over, and she wasn't there. After the end of the lecture, when Jamuna came around again, and Prabhupada saw her, Prabhupada jokingly said, oh, you don't like me anymore? And Jamuna said, oh, Prabhupada, this sannyasi told me that it's not proper for me to be on the stage. And what did Prabhupada do? Prabhupada was quiet. And he looked very sad. I don't for one moment think that Srila Prabhupada had anything but the greatest love and regard for Jamuna, who was a great, great Vaishnavi. But my humble assessment of that incident was that Srila Prabhupada saw it was wrong what the sannyasi had done. It was against Prabhupada's personal desire. But he saw that sannyasi, if Prabhupada would say something, they would not listen to him. Even Srila Prabhupada. So Ramana Sukha Prabhu, this is my humble thought to your question. Sometimes senior devotees, sometimes all of us see a need for some reform, and we may speak publicly with humility and a mood of service to Prabhupada. But if people won't listen, if they have these three faults, Shadavan, Vimukh, and Prashinvati, they don't have faith in you, they're reluctant to hear from you, they're not listening, then it's just going to utpataya vikolpate, it's just going to create a disturbance in society. And then in that case, better we be wise and we be quiet. And we teach by our own example. Len's comment, thank you so much, excellent teaching. I'm off to get a broom to beat my mind now. He said, I heard in one of your lectures in Puri Parikrama we discussed about Guru Bhogi, Guru Tyagi, and Guru Sevi. Would you please kindly shed some light on that? Well, it's a big, big topic. I'm not going to go deeply into that right now. But there are people who want to try to enjoy Guru and present themselves as Guru. There are people who give up the Guru, who reject the Guru, reject the instructions of the Guru. Sometimes the Guru Tyagi is of two types. One who rejects the Upadesh, instructions of the Guru, or one who rejects the mantra of the Guru. When they reject the mantra of the Guru, it means they reject their name, they reject their initiation. If they reject the instructions of Guru, it means they don't follow certain things. And both of them are great offenders. And there's a Guru Sevi, that disciple who just wants to serve Guru for Guru's pleasure. My grandmas used to say there's two types of attitudes, anartha yukta vasana and anartha mukta vasana. The devotee who has anarthas in the heart, and his darshan of Gurudev is bhogya darshan. Because he has anarthas, he thinks that Gurudev is here for my enjoyment. This is a big, big discussion. Actually, we started to write a book about this. We wrote over 100 pages, and it's something I really need to get back to again with that book. So that's the anartha yukta vasana, the disciple who has anarthas in the heart. The disciple is anartha mukta vasana, who is free from anarthas to a greater or lesser extent. He sees, according to the purity of his heart, sevaka darshan. He sees that Gurudev is meant to be served. Krishna Cohen has given me a beautiful comment from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He said, the deliberation, alochana, on the faults of others with the right motive, samudesha, is not considered as criticism as per the scriptures. That's not considered to be criticism if we have the right motive. The right motive is any of these three kinds. If the deliberation is done on someone's sinful or faulty activities with the motive of benefiting the person, we're concerned that deliberation is auspicious. With that, of benefiting that position concerned, comma, then that kind of deliberation, I'm an editor, then that kind of deliberation is auspicious. If deliberation on others' faults is done to benefit or protect the interests of human society in general, then that kind of deliberation is counted amongst auspicious activities done for the benefit of others. When the disciple prayerfully inquires from the spiritual master about the identity of true Vaishnavas, the Guru may point out persons who are dressed as Vaishnavas but are not following the Vaishnava principles, Sadachara, and name them as Avaishnavas. The bona fide Guru does so not out of envy or malice toward any individual, but he acts for the benefit of everyone. Thus, it is not sadhu ninda, criticism of devotees, or Vaishnava aparad, offenses to the devotees, to instruct others to reject the association of these pretenders who taken shelter of the exalted position of the Vaishnavas, but engaged in performing activities against the Vedic scriptures. But again, two positions are here. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says it's not offensive to reject their association, but he doesn't say that we should chastise them. But if we have a position of temple president, temple commander, or a parent, a guardian, guru, then it's our obligation. We have to chastise them. But that position means they accept us. If they don't accept us, if they don't have faith in us, if they have one of these three faults, then it'll be ineffective. And it's better we just cheat them and tell them, as my Guru Maharaj used to say, whatever damn thing they want to hear. And we set about behaving in a way that will give them faith in our behavior. So we've gone really over time. Anybody here have any final comments or anything? Quick to see you tonight? Why don't you come in?
I think you already said everything, but I was just remembering that famous verse that we all know. Most of the devotees, Guru Nasasya, Yanami Nasasya, Pita Nasasya. So that verse, it says everything clearly and concrete. Do not become a father, a mother, a spiritual master, if you're not able to deliver your dependence. So now this fits correctly, and it's easy to understand in the sense that if you're a leader, but sometimes we see in a large society, we have the problems of when the leaders or someone in that position is not able to come to the standard to actually protect or help. And then that's when the quarrels and criticals and things happens. And we have that experience in the Guru reform, the famous Guru reform. So if everybody would have remained quiet and just let go and, humble and not speak out, these things would still be going on as they may, So that the problem comes is when things are not solved properly, the public, or the rest of the devotees, they start like speaking about it, committing unnecessarily offenses. Actually, they might have some, motive to say, I have to speak up. But then there's a system how to do it, isn't it? Maybe you can speak.
Again, the first principle is, which is so clear, that if they don't have faith in us, it's not going to help. There are many, many self-appointed reformers. There's many movements within the movement of the Vaishnavas who want to say that none of the gurus are bona fide, and everybody should just go to Prabhupada. There's many, many different reform movements, but we see they're not beneficial. They're not helping other people because they're just like Kesi. They're opening a big mouth to people who don't have faith in them. So this is such a very deep and important principle, not to open our mouth unless someone has faith in us. As far as problems with the Guru, or the Guru reform, there's no such thing as we know of Guru reform, because Guru means someone who's already reformed. If someone has, we say the Guru should be reformed, means he's not actually a Guru. So in our society, in our Vaishnava society, I would suggest we have two types of leaders, two types of gurus. One is somewhat mechanical, institutional, because we belong to the school, which my Guru Maharaj sometimes would compare to kindergarten. And when you're going to school, you follow the rules, and they have this, and there's a leader, and you have to follow them because it's given, because this is a person in charge. And we do that for the sake of the benefit of the mission of Srila Prabhupada. But that doesn't mean that person is my personal spiritual leader. And Guru Maharaj spoke about this many times. That I have a right to accept as Guru, Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, someone that I have faith in. If someone is a manager, a temple president, or Guru or something, then that person does something wrong. There may be some reform within the society. And I may not be inspired by that person. And there's no harm, there's no fault or offense on my part if I don't accept him as my Guru. But I shouldn't criticize them unnecessarily. As you were pointing out, there's a system. We go to the authorities above that person. We go to the temple president to complain about the Bhakti leader, the temple commander. And if the temple president is doing something bad, then we go to the GBC. If the GBC is doing something bad, then we go to the executive committee. And if nobody will listen to us, then we do bhajan. And we pray, and we keep some distance from that nonsense. Although, we may point out that Bhishma Dev was, you may say, well, we'll just have to leave the society of devotees. No, Bhishma Dev was on the wrong side. but from some external perspective. He was fighting on behalf of Duryodhana. But he was always on the side of the Pandavas and Krishna in his heart. But he had to, socially, institutionally, had this obligation. That's not where his heart was. So we should learn to be deep persons and not just only identify with the external institutional situation, with the grade school, the kindergarten that we belong in. The temples are like schools. One devotee once came to our Guru Maharaj and was saying, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, I just can't live in the temple. I don't know what to do." And Guru Maharaj told him, "Hey, Baba, how long will you stay in kindergarten?" So the temples are meant for education for devotees. And Prabhupada's mission should always be that we never give up the mission. But it doesn't mean I'm going to stay in the Bhakti program forever and ever and ever. That I'm going to always live in the temple under that kind of authority. But I'm always going to accept the authority, the spiritual authority of Guru and Krishna. And I'm always going to respect in a social way the managers of the society. Otherwise things won't go on properly and Prabhupada's mission won't be able to be accomplished. This requires some maturity, some subtle discrimination. Brajabanita said, from some other preacher I heard that in this story about Prabhupada and Jamuna, Prabhupada was silent because he agreed that women must be behind. Well, I don't agree with that because Srila Prabhupada told Jamuna that you should sit here next to me, and Prabhupada liked it. And Prabhupada told her to speak, and Prabhupada told her to do kirtan. Sometimes devotees, they speak like this. Oh, this Prabhupada was quiet because it means all the women should shut up and stand in the back. I don't agree with that. And the examples of Srila Prabhupada, he had them speak. And Jamuna was never pushing herself forward. Far the opposite, she was terrified to speak. She didn't want to speak, but Prabhupada wanted her to speak. So, I don't think you agree with that either, Brajabanita, but it makes me disturbed when I hear that. Kishore Gopal Prabhu says, I can see in myself the lack of faith of the effect of simply trying to be exemplary myself and that being sufficient. We see that external solutions are always preferred over the idea of self-development as it is more tangible. Is there a balance between the two? Well, it depends on what type of bhakti we're practicing. When we're practicing bhakti in the mode of passion, we don't have a choice. We're going to see as solutions money. We're going to see as solutions prestige and position. We're going to see those things as solutions. So that there's only one solution. Prabhupada said this chanting should go on instead of meetings, resolutions, dissolutions, revolutions, and no solutions. There should be chanting. Because that chanting means Chaito Darpana Marjanam. I'll purify the heart of all these contaminations of desires, and then our society will be perfect. But we do have people in our society who are practicing bhakti in the mode of passion and in the mode of ignorance. And we don't hate them. In fact, sometimes we give them positions of authority. And they exercise their position, just like Kumuga, who was holding the umbrella over Indra's head and later became Kesi in his next life. Or Indra himself, who wanted to use that position thinking he's better than the devotees. So simple, we have one solution. I appreciate so much in Ranjan Maharaj, and people come and say, Maharaj, there's this problem and this problem and this person and this money thing and business and management problem and wife problem and husband problem. And Maharaj says, I only have one solution. The holy name. And Bhakti, that's the only solution I have. He's a sadhu. And that solution is the only solution. But when people are practicing bhakti in the mode of passion, then they say, no, we have to have a bigger building, we have to have more money, we have to have better management, we need counselors and psychiatrists and this and that and the other. And okay, let them do like that. And some people have faith in that, they can do that. It's not that those things are wrong. But ultimately, bhakti is the only solution. So I want to stop there. We've gone really over time. Thank you all very much. So if anyone's interested, tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, a little earlier, we're going to have, I think, a Zoom class. And it's going to be in English with a Russian translation. So if you would like to take part in that, it's going to be on Zoom, not on Facebook. You send me a private message, or even you can write it in a public message too, and we'll add you tomorrow and send you the link to that Zoom class. Indian time, same time we start 10 minutes early, about 8 o'clock in the morning, Indian time to about 9 o'clock tomorrow. And otherwise we'll be here again on Friday with, again, this 9th verse of the 31st, of the 29th chapter about Bhakti and Passion. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpa Tarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu